of this week's webinar. My name's Nathan Batcher and I'll be your host for today. So before I begin, I'm just going to read through this disclaimer. Please feel free to read along as well. Beyond Trader LLC is strictly a research publishing firm. The information we publish is based on our opinions, plus our quantitative models and financial data and independent research. This service is not registered with any financial regulatory agency such as the SEC or any other organization or governmental body. By using our platform or our services, you acknowledge that we do not provide personalized recommendation or advice. Alternative asset classes are volatile investments and carry significant risk. Please do your own research before making any financial decisions. Okay, so on today's agenda, I'm going to be looking at Bitcoin correlations for the educational topic this week. I'm going to be comparing it to the relevance to the current market for Bitcoin. I'm going to be discussing how it relates to the price action. And also, I'll be looking at the altcoins for the week ahead from a slightly, longer term perspective than normal. And I'll also be holding the Q&A session towards the end of the webinar this week as well. Okay, so getting straight into this week's educational content, which is Bitcoin correlations. So I think very simply put, Bitcoin has a positive correlation with the S&P 500, and it has an inverse correlation with the US dollar. So those are the two most simple correlations and uncorrelated asset classes that we think about with Bitcoin. And also, I think it's important to know that the gold correlation, it does come into play sometimes, but it's mostly weak unless we see a very pure US dollar move or we see some type of risk move. But otherwise, gold has its own dynamics, and so does Bitcoin. And in a way, there's many different variables acting in both of them. So we need to see really some type of US dollar or risk move in order to build in a correlation with Bitcoin at the time. So if we have a look at this chart of the S&P 500 compared to Bitcoin, and we can see here how you can draw some simple correlations. So there's some points in time, if you look back to the summer, where the stock market started to go higher and Bitcoin started to go lower. However, crypto recovered, and then we saw a correction in the S&P 500, and then we saw kind of a lower high and a steep crash, and Bitcoin obviously crashed at that time. However, you can see over the last few weeks, the recovery in the S&P 500 has been much stronger, and obviously the crypto correlation with Bitcoin moving down, where we've basically seen a lot of the losses in the S&P 500 reverse. So this basic correlation it sometimes diverges. And the positive thing for this about crypto is that crypto tends to play catch up if stocks are rallying. So this is quite a bullish thing. So if we don't see stocks moving lower this week, we can assume that Bitcoin at some point is going to start to move higher to catch up with stocks, bearing in mind that correlation. So as well, the upcoming chart of the Bitcoin, S&P 500 and goals, it really is going to show that Bitcoin and the S&P 500 usually stay very tightly correlated, and you can see gold there in the greeny type of blue color. I guess we'll call it Malibu blue for the sake of any arguments. And we can see that this price, if we're talking about the relationship to the S&P 500 and Bitcoin, we can see it's the asset class which diverses most, but we can see the S&P and the Nasdaq are very tightly correlated, but we can see the others kind of break down. Also, I guess the situation in Bitcoin versus the S&P dynamics is interesting, as like I say, we typically see a catch up with crypto, and I guess if we were to look at this chart here, if Bitcoin were to catch up, then we can basically see a move back to around maybe 66,000, maybe 70,000, assuming we see stocks and crypto moving higher in the next couple of weeks together. Now we move on to the next interesting, inversely correlated asset class, and that would be the US dollar. So the US dollar looks to be very bearish to me at the moment, specifically the US dollar index, and we can see this nasty head and shoulders pattern here that's forming. So something I would like to draw your attention to is that there's going to be an expected crash in the US dollar index at some point, according to my charts, and that move could seriously impact Bitcoin. But I guess despite the obvious bullishness towards Bitcoin, the gold correlation is still very interesting for me, and both have their own, interesting and unique supply and demand dynamics. Um, that's very apparent. But one thing we can see is that they're both building this cup and handle pattern. And the cup and handle pattern for me on the gold futures chart is very live. But if we look on the Bitcoin chart, we can see we're still tucked in beneath that range. So hopefully, we're also going to see Bitcoin starting to move that cup and handle pattern. And they're both interesting. They're both in uptrends. They're both very beautifully carved out and very valid. So hopefully, we'll see Bitcoin actually following what gold is going to do. And I guess both of the patterns that I've just shown you there, continuation patterns, which further strengthens the case for Bitcoin moving higher. And I think based on the below chart, a strong correlation has been in play with the two over the last couple of years, as I'm going to show you. So you can see corrections in Bitcoin have tend to happen when we've seen corrections in gold. You can see they follow each other quite smoothly here, and we've recently seen a diverging away from gold going higher and Bitcoin going lower. So hopefully, again, we can play catch up. Note the 200-day moving average. Gold has been a firm buy on that, where Bitcoin's a little bit softer there. So interesting stuff at play there. But I guess, when you think about MT-GOX and the different selling events and that, it's no real surprise. But again, I think there's an interesting case ahead that we can see some type of catch-up play going on between these two. So moving on next, I'm going to be looking at altcoins. And as I said earlier, I'm going to be looking from a slightly longer term perspective here. So looking at the crypto total market cap, just to get a general sense of everything, we've got the daily time frame Ichimoku cloud here. There's absolutely zero buy signals. It's more bearish than bullish here, but we are seeing it moving above this kind of these two support channels here. So if we move above the cloud and I guess above the 200-day moving average, and we get the conversion line, we're above the conversion in the baseline, and we start to see the lagging line start to cross into the crowd. Only then will we get a buy signal. But I guess really and truly, and being very honest, all this is doing at the moment is just testing support, and we're hopefully going to see that support holding, and then we're going to move higher towards the cloud. But there's zero buy signals at the moment. The only positive thing is possibly the emergence of a bullish reversal pattern here, and the fact that we have been in an uptrend. If we look at something like Ethereum, I'm pleased to see it stabilizing inside this falling price channel. I guess the next big test coming up is going to be around 2,800. If we can get above there, then we can look towards 3.2, which is basically the middle of this price channel. If we have a look at Chainlink, very interesting here, and that this consolidation pattern here that we had from June from 2022 to basically June 2023. We had the breakout and we've moved back inside this consolidation channel here, which is a bit worrying. So Chainlink quickly needs to move back above, I think, $13 and $15 in order to move towards the two primary targets that I have, which are $24 and basically around about 35 US dollars. If we look at Solana, it does look similar in some ways to Ethereum, except for the fact that it never fell underneath its channel, is already moving back towards the middle of its channel. I think if we get above $190, we could see 240, 250 very, very easily and possibly higher. If we have a look at Litecoin, again, it's another coin that's fallen underneath its channels. Obviously, the fundamentals are very poor, but in a bull market, I think that we could definitely see this moving towards 140. I'd be surprised to see this moving towards 200 without a fundamental shift in this coin. But at the moment, again, you can see this ascending price channel is bearish, and we've moved underneath it, so we need to be wary at the moment. Having a look at XRP, we've been flirting around this breakout monthly trend line for a long time. Still no joy there. But if we do manage to break above there, I think 1 cent or 1 cent 20 looks very easily tagged on this chart. So that's my roundup for this week with the educational segment on the correlations for Bitcoin and also for the altcoin trading plan if the market does start to move ahead. If you have any questions, please do let me know. If not, as always, you can write to me on Discord or you can communicate with me via email. Okay, so thank you very much, and I'll see you again next week.